I have Oklahoma City at the top for obvious reasons. They, just won the NBA title. Every single guy that they have is back. They're one of the youngest teams in NBA history to win a title. Now, I will say teams to repeat haven't happened in the last 7 years. So, I mean, if the Thunder don't win it this season, then we're going to clearly just see that that's not something that can feasibly happen anymore until until I am told otherwise. But as far as the Thunder currently, they have no reason to not be absolutely right back in the title race. There's not really honestly much more I even want to talk about the Thunder. They're great. They're obviously not on that 73 win pace that they were at the beginning of the season, but they clearly are a young team going through the trudge of the regular season, trying to win their second back-to-back title. I'll be really interested to see what this team's effort is like at the end of the season. But as of right now, they're clearly in the tier one of contenders. I think that's pretty obvious. But again, there hasn't been a back-to-back champion in 7 years, so there clearly is some standard that and not only has there not been a back-to-back champion, there hasn't been a team that has won the finals that's made it to the conference finals the year after, which is it's just really insane since 2019. So we have the San Antonio Spurs in the top tier because the 2025 Pacers changed a lot about how I think about the NBA playoffs, and you need to have lots of guards and lots of depth at guard. And you need to be able in this NBA where we're running more miles than we ever have ran miles, and it's a faster paced game than it has ever been. It's more spread out than it's ever been. Needing depth at guard specifically is very important, not for just like injury sake, but for having fresh legs to throw at guys in a 7-game series for 2 months long. And the San Antonio Spurs have that right now. And not only do they have depth at guard, they have different types of guards at every star guard that they have. They're very different. Castle is a lockdown wing defender that can do a little bit of everything on offense. He's a master of none right now, but he's also very efficient and very solid at everything. And he's just simply a lockdown defender. He offers a similar package to something that like what Fox can bring you, but now Fox is a vet, which is wild to say. But De'Aaron Fox is a veteran in this league, and he obviously has a much more refined offensive game than guys like Castle and Harper are going to bring you. So I think though that trio just fits so perfectly in today's game and is going to be able to withstand lots and lots and lots of games in the playoffs. And Wemby doesn't need to have a good night for them to be good. That's what's scary, is Victor Wembanyama doesn't need to be that good, at least offensively. He's always going to bring you the defense. But I clearly see them as a contender. The only thing that is the huge, obvious reason for them not to be a tier one contender is no NBA history would ever tell you that a team that hasn't played a single playoff game together is going to go rounds. So if that's the argument, that's fine. Like I am a history buff when it comes to the NBA. That makes sense to me. Even teams recently like the Thunder and last year the champs, but the year before that they had to lose to the Mavericks, and the Celtics, they had to lose playoff series after playoff series after playoff series with Tatum and Brown to finally break through. Same thing for the Giannis Bucks, same thing for the Jokic Nuggets. So it really would buck a lot of NBA history for them to just go from, hey, we're going to be bad, to now we're the champs. I wrote down here the only team that's ever had a worst to first type of NBA champion season was the 2007 Celtics, 2008 Celtics, that went from 24 wins to 66 wins in a single season, which is just insane. But obviously they didn't add Ray Allen or Kevin Garnett in the offseasons.
I love your reasoning about the Spurs, and I mean, I love the guard depth. I mean, you brought up a great point with the 2025 Pacers. Yeah. And I mean, Wemby, when he's on the floor, is such a defensive anchor and force, and no one wants to go near him. It's like he has the plague when he's in the paint defensively, and it's insane. However, I think you made like your own argument against yourself, and I think it's the correct one, where we have never seen this in history. I do think you got to go through the bumps and bruises of like the playoffs and playing upwards of 100 games in an NBA calendar year, where you have to take that loss on the chin. And like you said, I mean, it's been so many examples of that recently. I mean, even the Pacers, they didn't win the championship, but they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before and lost it. And then, they made it back there the year after. So the Spurs are absolutely contenders. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I do just think Oklahoma City is still in a league of their own. and when it comes to contending. When they were fully healthy, we were talking about 74-8. And they've had the injury bug this year. It's been tough. So, and they're still one of the top teams. So, the Thunder are still tier 1 for me, and then I would drop the Spurs down to tier 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Nate here, but I definitely think you're pretty close to hitting the nail on its head, Talon. I think it's like a 1A, 1B. Like, obviously, the Spurs have been so good, and I think that Wimby is doing things to guards that we just honestly haven't seen. Like, he's got dudes like Cade Cunningham back wheeling on the court because he doesn't want to try to hit a floater over him. And then also, just to add on to Nate's point about the Pacers, like, even that team, like, outside of the conference championship visit, they had Pascal Siakam, vet, who had been on a championship team with the Raptors. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody on the Spurs team has gotten anywhere close to a conference championship. So,
They do have Harrison Barnes, who's been around the block.
Okay. I think that them making the conference championship would honestly be like a huge success of a season, especially after the last couple of years they've had and the moves they've been trying to make to get better. So
I totally agree.
So my tier 2 is the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Boston Celtics, and that's it. The Timberwolves' path is pretty clear to me. The Timberwolves are an interesting team this year where they're, I believe, so they're 4th in the West, 39-23. However, they're an odd team where they're 21-10 against teams above 500, but they're 13-12 against teams below 500. So they're clearly elite against the elite teams, which in the playoffs are playing only elite teams, but they're dropping games, man. They could easily be right where the Spurs are in the standings, or the Thunder, if they would just clean up some of this just lack of attention, or I don't know what it is, but that's just very odd to be that good against the elite teams and barely over 500 against the below 500 teams. But that tells me that that's a team that in the playoffs they'll be ready to go. Now, obviously, Anthony Edwards is a bona fide NBA superstar. Nate's pushing the MVP, buzz right now. I mean, Anthony Edwards is not a 50-40-90 guy, but he's a 50-40-80 guy that also can lock down your best player on any possession when he really locks down and tries. He's not play to play going to be a defensive guy like a Men Thompson, but on one play, he can be as impactful as anybody defensively, and he can also dunk on your favorite player. So, I mean, if Steph Curry was 10% as good at shooting free throws and also could yam on your favorite player, I would want that guy on my basketball team. He is that guy. I think Anthony Edwards, this is the season he should be ready to take the leap. But what they made 2 conference finals. The roster is about the same. What has to change? I think 2 things specifically have to change about the Minnesota Timberwolves. One, Anthony Edwards needs to be ready for game time when the conference finals come, assuming they even make it there. Not to say it's a guarantee, but the last 2 conference finals the Timberwolves have made, Anthony Edwards has clearly looked out of gas by the time the conference finals came and throughout the conference finals, especially more so during that Dallas Mavericks conference finals, where it just looked like he did not have the gas to guard Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic every single game that series. That was a great duo. They should try to get that together again. All right. To your point, Caden, I think Julius Randle being able to step up is going to be big here for Anthony Edwards. In the 2 conference finals Anthony Edwards has played, he has averaged 23.8 points a game on 43%, which is not a huge indictment on Anthony Edwards because most players' points per game and efficiency is going to go down. But that's, throughout the playoffs. But that is a large drop for him, going from like 27 a game in the playoffs to around 24 on pretty bad efficiency. And also, again, if you watch both those conference finals, it was a constant narrative from the announcers. And really, you could tell his defense was pulled back a little bit. He clearly was a young player that struggled with the marathon that is the NBA playoffs and was treating it more of like a sprint. I think this postseason, Anthony Edwards, that's his time to really be like, okay, where do I use my energy here? Where do I use my energy there? To your point, Caden, the Julius Randle X factor of the Timberwolves is huge, and obviously second best player on the team. It's normally a big deal, but Julius Randle specifically has had some ups and downs in the playoffs, especially for the New York Knicks. Um, he was a guy. Let me find. I believe I have. Yes. Julius Randle's playoff career average is 19.4 points per game on 42% from the field and 33% from three, which aren't great splits at all. And again, you in those Knicks playoff series, especially, Julius was that was bad basketball to watch, man. Just seeing Julius at the top of the key, sweating out of possession and looking like Carmelo Anthony, but like 5 times worse on the Knicks. It really was an experiment. And throughout the last couple of years, Julius has turned a corner. He apparently stopped smoking weed, so that it somewhat is important, I guess. For last year's playoffs for the Timberwolves, averaged 21.5 a game, 7 boards, 5.3 assists on good efficiency. So, I mean, he clearly has turned the corner as far as, playoff performances go. Can Anthony Edwards be able to know where to manage that energy, to where to conserve the energy for later rounds, and can he continue that excellence throughout the rounds? And can Julius Randle have a similar postseason that he had last year? He was clamping up LeBron and Luka on his way to the conference finals. He had a great postseason. I would like to see him do that again.
I think you kind of addressed everything I was going to say with Julius Randle, but it really does kind of just feel like a young team, which I know they do have a lot of vets on there between Julius and Rudy. But with Ant being like the star of that team and the one that's kind of expected to actually take on like the full burden of the scoring when everyone else goes down, make everyone else around him better. I mean, how old is he? 23, 24? Like,
Ant?
yeah.
I know he's our age, so I believe he's 24.
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about a 24.
Anthony Edwards is 24 years old.
Nice. Look at this guy. It's Google off the top of his head. But yeah, I mean, considering the fact he's made it to the conference finals as the lead guy twice at 24, I'm not super concerned about him moving forward. I think that bodes very well for him. And we'll just see what happens. I mean, I could honestly see a scenario where we get a series between them and Thunder in the second round, and that's one of the better series we see all playoffs. And they could lose in that round, and I would not be upset with their season. So we'll see what happens with them, but I think they're in the right tier for here.
I love all the stuff about Julius. I think his growth and his role in Minnesota has been really interesting to see compared to like back in New York. He was kind of expected to be more of like the star, and I just don't think he was built for that per se. But I think he's been really good, and I think he's definitely an X factor for him. Ant is just a bona fide dude, man. I mean, he's so vintage and 90s. Like he is our era's Michael Jordan. And his stat line is so interesting to me because, like, he averages like 30 a game. His splits are awesome. He gets so much attention. But one thing to notice about his game is, he's not going to be a guy who is facilitating out of these like aggressive double teams or aggressive defense. He only averages 3.7 assists a game, which I'm not really knocking him. I'm not trying to make this like Ant's got to pass the ball more. I actually love that he doesn't. I love that no, I'm going to score on you. That's what he does. I'm actually going to flip it. Yeah, Chris Finch learned a damn thing because especially in the clutch. I mean, you said all this great stuff. He's so clutch. I mean, goddamn, I feel like every couple of days I'm seeing Anthony Edwards clutch dagger 3 to get 40 on the night. I'm like, damn. And I remember there was a game a couple years back against the Pacers where he blocked a game-winning layup attempt, and I swear to God, he almost jumped out of Gainbridge. He went so high up on this block attempt. It was asininely high. I mean, he was the highest in the room. Shout out Travis Scott. So I honestly want to flip that conversation about his playmaking more on the Timberwolves, and the only knock I have on this team is the lack of playmaking, the lack of facilitating. There's not a lot of other guys who can move the ball and create their own shot or create shots for others. And I think that's why, they were so aggressive at the deadline, and, like the point guard, saga for them has been interesting this year. So that's the only big like flaw I see in the Timberwolves. And and they'll go as far as Ant takes them.
So the Celtics, they're my tier 2. Now, their path to the championship is so simple. There's not a lot of breaking down that I need to do. Jason Tatum needs to come back. Jason Tatum needs to be healthy. Jason Tatum needs to be the same Jason Tatum, or at least I put in the notes here 75 to 80% of what Jason Tatum has been able to provide before. I'm going to assume he'll probably be able to do that, considering everything we've heard about the injury rehab, how fast he got the surgery, that he's coming back in March. He'll have plenty of time to ramp up. So there's a ton here that's great. I'm putting them if Tatum was here and playing the whole season and they looked great, I would have them in tier 1, obviously. But I cannot put a team in tier 1 that I haven't seen their, we've debated it, who's better, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. If not the best player, 1B. Like, if the, half of the impact that we look at on the Celtics of like, hey, this guy changes the team. If I haven't seen him play a second of basketball this year, I can't put them in tier 1, but obviously they're set up fantastic. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, and their best player on the team hasn't played a single game yet. So they're in a great position, and they have just enough time to get the ramp up for Tatum here. And before I let you guys go, I think this season, if the Celtics flame out in the postseason or whatever, nothing comes of this season, I think we absolutely should remember this as the season that Joe Mazzulla cements himself as clearly one of the best head coaches in the NBA, and he is working on a level that nobody else is working. This Celtics roster is like, I knew what the Celtics roster was before I looked it up today. But man, you look up the roster and really look it up and down, it is awful. Like, just from a name standpoint, at least. Like, you got Luka Garza, Hugo Gonzalez, Ron Harper Jr., like, not the other good one, but the worst one, Sam Hauser, obviously, Peyton Pritchard, who has been a crucial part of their team over the last couple of years. Joe Mazzulla's got Peyton Pritchard out here clearing out. Like, literally, Kyrie Irving offense, give me the ball, let me work. I'm going to drop 35 and carry my team to a win because of my shot making. Like, crazy stuff. I mean, Shireman, like, this team is not. Jordan Walsh has played crucial minutes for the Celtics. It's really crazy when you look at the talent on this roster, what they've been able to accomplish already. But with the Tatum questions, I wouldn't have them in that top tier, but you guys can go.
I'll take over here. So I think most people that are listening to this are probably aware that your boy is now living in Boston, City of Champions, unfortunately. But I was fortunate enough to go to the Celtics Nets game the other night because tickets were super cheap for the lower bowl. So I got to sit about 10 rows back from our MVP candidate, Jaylen Brown here. Shout out Michael Porter Jr. on the Nets before I get into the Celtics, because that dude just finessed my entire college, University of Missouri, shout out, and an entire team to give him like $50 million a year. So the Celtics absolutely dominated them. They won by 40 points, and it felt like the first half nobody was trying, and then by the fourth quarter it was bench had cleared out. They had everybody on the court that I had not seen play a single minute, quarters 1 through 3. And honestly, Talon, I disagree that we haven't seen this team play, because I think we've seen this team win a championship with the same like core guys. Like, I mean, obviously some of the pieces have changed. Like, Kristaps isn't here anymore. We have Vooch in the door, but I don't know, dude. Vooch looked like freaking KD against the Nets the other night. Like, dude was like 4 for 5 from 3 for absolutely no reason. I think the idea that, we haven't seen this team accomplish it, though, is not like entirely true, because we have seen this team win a title with the core guys like Jaylen Brown. Obviously, we haven't seen Jason Tatum much this season, but from everything we've heard about him, it sounds like he's going to be a meaningful impact player in the playoffs. If you look at the quality around this team in the East, like, they have to beat the Pistons. Going back to our Spurs conversation, it's like, has anybody even, touched a late playoff round on that team? And we're talking about a team that won the title 2 years ago. So I think adding Jaylen Brown back, obviously, like, they've had Sam Hauser and some other people spot filling for him. And honestly, Peyton Pritchard has been really good this year. Like, he has been in that clear out role. Like, dude has been balling for no reason. Derek White can guard like 1 through 3. So I think Jason Tatum coming back, like if you're just plugging him into a lineup that already is 41-20 in the East, like why could they not win the title? I think this is a tier 1 team moving forward. I understand why you had him in tier 2, but considering the fact that everyone was talking about this being a lottery team before the beginning of the year, I'd say they've earned their spot as a contender.
I love that. I'm totally with Caden on that portion of things where it's like they are contenders. They are serious contenders. And I don't mind them being the favorite out of the East. I really don't.
I would like to say they are currently my favorite to come out of the East. So
Yeah.
the top 2 teams were in the West. Yeah, they're my favorite.
And I totally see why. I mean, Talon, I love your points about Joe Mazzulla. I don't know if he has ever really gotten the credit I think he deserves. He's an incredible coach. They have such a great identity as a team. They know every night, no matter who's in the rotation, they know their identity. And, like, I think that's why you're seeing these great role players step up and fill these roles on a nightly basis. And, I mean, you guys have already given him his praise, but just another shout-out to Peyton Pritchard. He's been awesome. I mean, God, his growth has just been so cool to watch. Where it's almost very Austin Reeves-like, just in terms of like their career paths and like the culture behind them. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on Tatum just because like I don't know what to expect. So I kind of struggle to formulate like a real coherent thought. But it seems like he's gonna play. Jason Tatum's a top 7 guy in the NBA on any given year. So I think they're totally the favorites out of the East.
Yeah. I think we're all at that spot. You know, whether we have them in tier 1 or tier 2. I would say they're my favorites right now. If I had to bet on any team, I would bet on the Boston Celtics. The last team is the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, I had their offseason as A++. Couldn't get better on talent standpoint. I was very excited about every move they made for different reasons. And some have kind of worked, some have kind of not. They've had a weird year. So the Nuggets, we can just simply say that the Cam Johnson for MPJ swap so far, and probably for the rest of the year, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, has not worked out. I was all about it. I thought Cam Johnson would be perfect for the Nuggets. I thought he's a smart player. He'll be in the right spots. He'll be like Jokic's Kyle Korver for LeBron, to just like spot up, be in the right spot, know when to, hey, throw maybe a swing pass every once in a while that MPJ might not have, where MPJ was just going to shoot every single shot that was offered to him no matter what. So I was very into the IQ side of it, the nerdy side. Well, come to find out, stats and points are important. And Michael Porter Jr. last season, and I don't even want to compare, MPJ on the Nets versus Cam Johnson on the Nets, because that's just not what I was excited about for Cam Johnson. But I mean, literally MPJ on the Nuggets last year, averaging 18.2 points per game on 50% from the field, and rounding up about 40% from 3, where Cam Johnson is currently averaging 11 points per game on 44% from the field and 40% from 3, so around the same splits, but not the same volume. He just is not. When you watch the Nuggets, there's just not the sense of Cam Johnson's on the court. And no matter what you think about Michael Porter Jr., when that motherfucker was on the court. And Cam Johnson just doesn't really have that impact. And I thought he might be a little bit more of a plug and play kind of a guy, but no, not at all. What's up? Nate, why are you giving me that face, bro?
Dude, I could not disagree more with like the last 6 minutes of Cam Johnson slander. Now, look, I'm not sure, and I think you're right in terms of in the offseason we were all like oogling and googling over this addition, and I too would have given it an A++. And has it been an A++? No. But I think, one, just kind of how you're coming at it is just, it's certainly not a disappointment. And I definitely don't even think it's necessarily even, like, I don't know if you, like, would the Nuggets front office, like, switch this? Like, no. Like, I think they're happy with it. Because Cam Johnson's still giving you 11 a game. His shooting from overall from the field isn't awesome. It's 44.5, which isn't, like, the worst, but it's not great. But he is shooting
for his 3-point percentage, though.
He's shooting 41% from 3. and he's also giving you 4 boards and 2.5 assists roughly, and he's giving you similar, if not better, defense than Michael Porter Jr. And Michael Porter, like, look, I don't even mean to bring this to like a Michael Porter Jr. slander, but his game's a little bit of a wild card. Like, you don't really know what you're gonna get out of MPJ on a nightly basis because that's just kind of his mentality, and for the better, it's worked out great for him. But I can see it now where the Nuggets are in a playoff series and Cam Johnson is a vet who is efficient as hell, and all of a sudden he's going to hit his 5th 3 of the night against the Los Angeles Lakers, 3 to the dome, and I'm going to look over at you like, this is what I'm talking about, and I just can see it. And then let's not even like another role of why they got rid of MPJ was he doesn't let others and like the other great players on the Nuggets like Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray and even Jokic play their most efficient basketball and get the usage and touches that they deserve. Because like look at Jamal Murray's stats for this season and last season for an example. A minute, yeah, career high. He's averaging almost 4. Yes. Like that doesn't happen if MPJ is still on the team. So I'm going to let you finish the Nuggets, but I just think the thought process on Cam Johnson is unfounded and will be frankly proven untrue.
Wow, I did not know Cam Johnson opinions were going to be the hottest takes on this podcast. And I listed here, I mean, Jamal Murray is having a career high average by 4 points at his previous, and Peyton Watson as well, averaging a career high of 14.9 points per game. So to your point, and Peyton Watson, very similar position to MPJ. So honestly, maybe you're right on that. They clearly have a path, right? Jokic has to be healthy, of course, and most importantly, Aaron Gordon with his hamstring has to be healthy. One of the worst injuries in basketball, as far as a nagging injury standpoint, where it's going to keep coming up. It's not really something that a lot of NBA players, if they get it mid-season, it's not like it doesn't come back, especially in a long, playoff run. So we can talk about Cam Johnson's shooting splits all day. Aaron Gordon's health is going to be the number one important thing for this team, and it's really not even close. Obviously, if Jamal Murray everybody's got to stay healthy. So that's really the main important thing. And that's kind of asking a lot. There's not a lot of teams in NBA history, especially, we can go to the last 5 years, that limp into the playoffs with one of their most important stars and win the championship. I have the Detroit Pistons in the 3rd tier. Motor City, muck it up, bloody, brawl, aggressive, defensive heavy, basketball is back. I'll just start with, obviously, I personally, I just love watching this Pistons team. Anytime I'm on League Pass, I'm going to watch the Pistons. They're a throwback team. They're gritty. They're mean. Their star player has a very aesthetically pleasing game to me. Him using his body at the top of the top of the 3-point line because he's bigger than most guards guarding him, and the fact that he's more of like a mid-range, he's similar to like a Chris Paul nowadays, but way bigger, better on defense, but also way less efficient from the outside. But his presence is the same from 3-point in, I feel. And he's got differences, of course. But Cade Cunningham has solidified himself as a bona fide top 10 player in the league. He is right up there with all the other young up and coming stars. He makes me more confident in American basketball currently. This year, he's averaging 25 a game, 6 rebounds a game, rounding up by literally a decimal point, 10 assists a game. His splits, not fantastic, 45.7 from the field and 32.9 from 3. So the shooting can be a little inefficient, but overall, he's the only guy on the Pistons that has any playmaking ability. He's shooting a lot of shots that are grenades at the end of the shot clock, because it's like, okay, we have Amen Thompson, we have Jalen Duren, and we don't have anybody that can make anything happen. Let's dump it off to Cade. So I do think a lot of that inefficiency comes from a team that doesn't have efficient shooters around him. And it's like, well, not even just from like a standpoint of defenders are closer to him, but they're also just, he's getting more shots on it. So I think the efficiency can be a little bit skewed there, but the Pistons are the most clear style of team ever. And I love it. It is clear though that they are they're 9th in points and they're 5th in rebounds, 12th in assists, which is fine. But they're 1st in blocks by kind of a lot, and they're 1st in steals by kind of a lot on averaging per game. They're also 5th in field goal percentage. So they're clearly a tough team that's getting a lot of shots at the rim. Jalen Duren has been an absolute beast this season. Could be MIP this year. They're clearly a team that is tough, but they cannot shoot threes at all. They just can't. They're the 3-pointers made on the year, they're 28th total, and their 3-pointers made the 3-point percentage on the year is 25th. So they don't take a lot of threes. They don't make a lot of threes. I think that, along with not having any other optionality at guard, really is the reason that I don't have the Pistons as the top contender. Going throughout this year, when I haven't really done a lot of research, I had the Pistons as I think they're going to make it to the finals. It feels good. I like Cade Cunningham. I like their team. So I wanted to feel that way, but doing more research, seeing, man, they don't make threes at all. I know 3-pointers isn't necessarily the playoff staple, but nowadays the regular season, the playoffs are becoming more of the same. It's like, oh, hey, we need a bench now, and we need to shoot threes still. And I just think that's going to be really easy to game plan, having one guy create everything in the postseason. So 3-point percentage by the champion of the league since 2021. So the Thunder were 6th in the league by percentage. The Celtics were 2nd. The Nuggets were 3rd. The Warriors were 8th. And the Bucks in 2021 were 5th. The Detroit Pistons currently, again, are 25th. So they are not even close. Now, if you want to go a year back, the Los Angeles Lakers in that season were around 25th in the league in 3-point percentage. However, they had the biggest team in the league by far, and they had LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The Pistons just don't have that currently. So if they're going to win the championship, it's going to have to be all on defense. So I feel like their team is going to be very matchup dependent in the postseason, and I wouldn't be stunned if they didn't make it to the conference finals.
So I really thought you took a really realistic approach with Cade Cunningham, which I applaud you for, because he's been getting a lot of credit, which he deserves, quite frankly. I think one thing I have to just throw out there is I'm extremely biased against the Pistons. So take that with, a little pin on whatever I say. I'm also biased against high-volume guards that are inefficient to an extent. Obviously, I really liked your point with Cade. He's getting a lot of ticking time bombs at the end of shot clocks, like you said. And I do think under different circumstances with more playmakers, like more high-end talent, more shooters, his splits would be way, way better. But we're not – that's if. And then we're talking about a different Pistons team. So let's talk about this Pistons team. The inefficiency is there. The turnovers are there. Now, I thought your usage conversation was really interesting. And hey, Cade, no wonder Jaylen Brown's numbers look good. Jesus Christ, he has the ball every possession. Oh my G, he's behind Luka. That's it. That's insane. But to bring in the Pistons, Jalen Duren is maybe somehow the most underrated player in the league. He is having an awesome season. I love watching his game. He actually makes me like the Pistons to an extent because I am obsessed with watching Jalen Duren play basketball. Beef Stew's fun for the memes and the culture, but he's kind of a shit ass. It's kind of funny when he just shoots threes every once in a while. Speaking of threes, the Pistons cannot shoot the ball. So that's why there will be no championship in Detroit, because they aren't going to make shots when it matters. I mean, this is a couple weeks ago, and, we're filming this on the 4th, so I don't know what it's going to look like, whenever this comes out. But they played the Spurs a while ago, and, me and Connor were watching it, and it's like, hey, this would be kind of a fun, spunky, finals matchup if we somehow get it. That's kind of neat. And the Pistons kind of ran out of the gym because they just couldn't score and they couldn't make any threes. It's a numbers game. It's not like a optional thing. It's a required skill, and based on the numbers you pulled, it is a literal required skill to win a championship. And I mean, based on the numbers you showed of where teams rank, they're 20 spots behind these teams in 3-point numbers. So I think tier 3 is absolutely the perfect spot. I think they still have some battle scars, and I would like to see their team and their front office be a little bit more aggressive on acquiring some star talent, because you do have a top 10 NBA player in Cade Cunningham and maybe a top 20 ceiling for Jalen Durant.
Let's go to the Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers. It's almost I have a tough time formulating an opinion about the New York Knicks right now. They are almost the same team with subbing out Tibbs for Mike Brown. Their team stats, they're 10th in points, they're 7th in rebounds, they're 10th in assists, they're 3rd in offensive rating, they're 7th in defensive rating. Those are good stats. The problem is they're just not elite at one thing. The Knicks don't have like one thing that it's like they do this super, super well. And that is, I don't think, a mark of a championship team. Most championships teams have like one thing that's just they're gonna destroy you on. And the Knicks just have like a good starting five that fit decently well on offense. Now I will just give Jalen Brunson a quick moment of hype. He's a 6'2" guard that historically 6'2" guards, even if they're good, Isaiah Thomas, the second one on the Celtics, that Isaiah Thomas, he's a great example of this, like averaging 29 points a game. He gets one small hip injury and then boom, it's like his whole career was over. And those guards just seem to lose a lot in the postseason, and Jalen Brunson just does not. Because the thing about Alvarado is he's like known as the defensive steals guy, GTA, so get behind a guy and steal it, spiel sneaky. He's a guy that randomly can get hot from three. He'll have a game where he has 6 threes, all transition threes, and especially in New York, if he hits 1 3, that place, born and raised in New York, Jose Alvarado, that place is gonna go bananas. So I like the team they have. I just don't. There's not one thing about this Knicks team that I'm like, oh, that is what's going to take them over the top. It's going to, in my opinion, take maybe an injury here, an injury there. And I know they beat the Celtics last year. I just don't think if you play that series 100 times that the Knicks would win more than 20 of them. I mean, they had the weirdest first two games in a series last year I think I've ever seen. The Celtics are up 25 points in game 1 or something like that. They're up a huge amount in game 1 at home, blow it, lose the game. And then they're a game 2 at home, up 25 again. We're not going to lose it this time. And then they lose it again. And they lost the series from there. I just think those first 2 games were so weird from the Celtics that I don't think if they play again in the postseason that the Knicks beat them. So, they're certainly a contender. They certainly have a chance. I would be pretty surprised if they made the finals, but they're in the tier 3.
Man, I love your note here where you say Tibbs to Mike Brown might be the most lateral move ever. Yeah, it is. It's so similar yet like so different. So I think Mike Brown has his strengths, but I think it's a little complex. But yeah, I didn't agree with the Tibbs firing. I still don't in hindsight, unless Mike Brown takes them to the promised land. Which, look, let's be quite frank. This is the best chance the Knicks have to win a title because they don't have to play the Pacers. I mean, they should be thanking their lucky stars they don't have to play us. It's been bell to ass the last 2 seasons. Now they're playing a weaker East. This should be it, right? But why does it feel like it's not gonna be? I don't know what it is. You're right on it, where it's like they're good at a lot of things, but they're not great or, the best at anything. And, Jalen Brunson's going to bring it. Cat's going to be really good offensively, but then be bad on defense. They have, like, pieces like OG and Mikal. Like, I just don't know what to expect on a night-to-night basis, especially offensively. Defense, they're going to bring it every night, and you know what to expect, but then they're soft on the perimeter. It's like all their skill sets, they fit together in some ways, but then totally just contradict each other in a lot of other ways. Where it's like Mikal and OG are so good on the perimeter, but then Cat's bad interior defensively, and it's just so interesting to watch. They're like a weird science experiment on a night-to-night basis. I thought one thing that Kenny said on his podcast where, the pairing of Mitchell Robinson and Cat has been really efficient when they do play, but they've only played at the time that he was talking about it, like 200 total minutes together, which, maybe they'll go more Twin Towers in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, I'm not this team doesn't excite me. I think tier 3 is totally fair and valid for them. And I personally like teams like the Pistons, the Celtics, and honestly, I mean, we'll get to the Cavs and like the whole James Harden health in his wrist, but a healthy Cavs, I would also take them. So the Knicks are really in that 4th spot for me, coming out of the Beast.
I got a first take that I feel like maybe you guys will agree with. Um, I personally don't believe Karl Anthony Towns is the center that you want on your team to win a championship. And not to say that he can't win a championship, but like they're asking him to be more responsible on the defensive end than he should be asked. And in the playoffs, that's just such an easy guy to say, hey, you're in every action. We are not letting you go away. You are in every action. And to your point, Nate, on the Twin Towers thing, well, that's a fantastic idea. We know why you can't do that because the Haka Mitchell is a real thing. And they don't do it in the regular season because, like, we got places to be. We got people that bought tickets to this game. We're not going to do that. But in the playoffs, especially a guy like Joe Mazzulla will be like, hey, foul him every single play. I don't care. And the same thing with the Cat. So it's like their two centers have these obvious holes. The Cat being defense, and also Cat's not just defense. It's just like simple rebounding stuff, or like knowing when to go for the board or to cut out and leak out and in transition. It's like there's just small stuff that you find in the most important of the moments. That Cat is just like a mental block that he has. He's a very frustrating player to watch. I just don't think he can be your championship center with as talented as he is. The Cleveland Cavaliers are they're an interesting team right now. Coming off a 64-18 season, looking like the most connected they have in years. Once Darius Garland went out last year in the playoffs, everything just went to shit. It's a really interesting trade. And while Darius Garland might go on in LA and be productive for them in a year or so and come back and hey, look, he hasn't had an injury in a couple years and he's really effective now. And oh, that was a bad trade by Cleveland. They were not going to get out of Darius Garland what they wanted to get out of Darius Garland, especially right now. And James Harden right now offers them a huge jump. And I'm not even going to discuss the regular season numbers for Harden versus because that's really not important. The Cleveland Cavaliers are trading for James Harden to win a championship, which is very ironic. But at the end of the day, even what you think about James Harden's playoff career is and how he always flames out and how he's not the answer to a playoff run, he still is more effective than Darius Garland in the playoffs. Darius Garland's playoff numbers, and this is when he plays, is 17.3 points per game, 5.5 assists on basically 43% from the field. Not the worst numbers you've ever seen, but certainly not the best. The fact that Harden plays, he is, if anything, Harden is available at all times, which very ironic considering his thumb injury, which we might go over a little bit, but he's played since the thumb injury and looked pretty good still. They're also, I believe they're 5-1 or 6-1 since adding Harden. So he clearly gives them a different mix. Gave Harden the honeymoon Harden nickname, and man, I think that's to a T. James Harden is the greatest point guard ever when he just got to your team. So Cleveland is going to enjoy this season. And hell, I mean, Harden might, at the end of the day, James Harden averages 19 point, basically 20 points a game in the playoffs. And this is just for the Clippers the last 2 seasons. I'm not even going far back into prime Harden. Just the last 2 years, James Harden's a 20-point a game guy in the playoffs, averaging 8.5 assists on 44% from the field. And he plays every game. So even if he's got a bad game 7, he's gonna suit up. The Cavs, I think, were so on the border, and they're clearly not the favorites. They're clearly not like a juggernaut, but they have very quickly put themselves into like, hey, if some shit shakes up in the East, we have a chance.
No, I mean, I just love that they were aggressive. And I mean, I love your little highlight of Dennis Schroeder where it's like Dennis is better than what they were getting out of Lonzo Ball. And, Cade, you sent this the other day where it's like, man, it's so sad that he might be out of the league. And that is so sad. Like, that's like such a a nostalgic guy for like our generation of basketball. But Dennis Schroeder is just an improvement, and James Harden is an improvement. And I think their X factor on like in terms of their playoff success is Evan Mobley. It just seems like we've been saying his name and X factor and will he won't be for years now. And I think his career can be looked at as like almost a little bit disappointing just because like the potential just is there. We've never really fully gotten it out of him.
I mean, people thought he was going to be like Giannis or something,
Yeah.
He's not that, which is fine.
No, he's certainly not that. And, like, I don't need him to be Giannis, but, I would have loved to see him, I would have loved to see him grow into like a 24 points a game guy. And, he just hasn't shown that, but he's still a really good NBA player. And I think he's going to be a huge factor in their long-term success. Now, the only thing I disagree with you about is I do think this team, pending James Harden's health, is above the Knicks, in my opinion. I mean, I really love what him and Don can do together, and I trust this team more than I trust the Knicks.
Well, I will be clear. The tiers aren't in any sort of ranking. I would also have the Cavs above the Knicks.
Perfect. Disregard.
I almost put the Lakers in their own tier, like a tier 4, outside of where the Rockets are and the rest of the teams are. The Lakers are such an interesting team. Like they've been covered so much. I don't even think we need to cover them too much. But objectively, I don't think they have enough bodies on the bench. I don't think they clearly don't have any defense at all, specifically point of attack defense. They don't shoot threes well enough. They have pretty much no statistical like, oh hey, other champions used to do this and we do this. They are not a championship level team. They have championship level players in Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. And when they play together, their net rating isn't very good. Their net rating together since like Christmas apparently has been pretty good, but in general, they don't fit well together. I genuinely believe there's like almost no way that the Lakers can win the championship outside of Luka Doncic averaging like 40 a game in the postseason and LeBron, just being the Draymond Green on steroids and Austin Reeves hitting clutch game. I mean, it would have to be honestly an insane playoff run for them to even get to the conference finals, in my opinion, as a Lakers fan. Now, I'm okay with that, but they certainly have a ton of holes, and they're not a team that's built with any sort of continuity. I mean, this team was made for Anthony Davis. Let's be honest. This team was crafted for LeBron and Anthony Davis, and then they got a LeBron light and just doubled up the whole team on the skill at the point guard position, basically. So, I mean, I have nothing more to say. You guys know, you guys. The Lakers have been covered so much; it's kind of nauseating at this point. But I don't think they have a real shot at it. But I'm putting them on here just because of Luka Doncic and LeBron and Reeves.
They're below the Rockets, who we're about to talk about, and they're below everyone else. But they do get some benefit of the doubt because they have Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves. However, they don't have enough. They're not elite at what you need to be elite at. I do think there's significant concerns with their defense. One, DeAndre Ayton's unplayable. He's getting minutes stolen from him by Jackson Hayes. Luka Doncic is obviously, tough on defense. They don't have a POA other than like Marcus Smart and Vando. And shout out to Marcus. I think he's actually been a rare bright spot this season. I've actually been really impressed with him. I had low expectations, and he has surpassed them by quite a bit. I've been impressed, but relying on Marcus Smart to clamp up the other team's best player for a 7-game series, I don't feel great about it. Vando's been unplayable this year, and yeah, if the matchups are favorable, maybe they can make a second round, maybe a conference finals push if things really work out. But I think they're going to revamp for next year, and I think the Lakers will look dramatically different one way or the other heading into 26-27.
Hey guys, my name's Caden. I'm part of Takes at the Tailgaters. I like the Mavericks. Let's go. Hell yeah. Just put this part in at the beginning, Talon. Yeah. Okay. Yep, it's filming now. We're good. I would say his highlights as the Lakers GM have been signing LeBron. That was good. That kind of fell in his lap though. I'm not really going to give him credit for Austin Reeves because that also kind of fell on his lap. Nobody was expecting Austin Reeves to be as good as he was. Anthony Davis, once again, Rich Paul facilitated that trade more than Rob Pelinka did. So, um, and then from there, obviously, like Luka showing up was kind of just a miracle. And it's kind of just been thing after thing. And if you look at everything between that, whether it be the Westbrook trade, and some other things around the fringes, it really has not worked out outside of the one championship they won, which that's more than you could say for like some of the other teams, like 25 other teams in the league. However, I think because they're the Lakers, he's kind of been handed a lot over time. Bro, talk about KD. Talk about KD.
Yeah, so the KD files. Where are we at on that?
I think he's innocent.
I need someone to break it
Get
down
off
for
my
me
Dickerson.
because I really don't even know what happened.
Get off my Dickerson? You don't know about?
Can't say I'm familiar.
That's his handle. Look, I think we should start on that. I think it is Kevin Durant because his response was like, "Man, I don't do all that Twitter stuff," and it's like, Kevin Durant, you are Mr. Twitter in the NBA. I don't think you're allowed to say that. Second, on the basketball side of things, I really like this team. I really like the idea of like Şengün and KD. Funny enough, ever since Jabari Smith has been thrown in the KD files, he's kind of been balling since the All-Star break, Jabari. So, shout out to him. But in general, I think this team has a chance to win the championship. Their coach is great. They have a lot of the makings of a championship team. I love, again, how they didn't. This isn't a brand new team. They swapped out Kevin Durant for Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. And, last season they were second in the West. Right now, they're barely third. They're in that third to sixth range, which is kind of how the West has been the last 5-6 years. But I think they have a legitimate chance to win the title. They have a lot of the same makings that a team like the Spurs do, but I do struggle to find, they're on the lower end of the tiers for me for sure. Amen? Yes, Amen Thompson's he's a fantastic player. He is just so ridiculously specific. The I think I'm interested to see his playoff run again because he's obviously a guy that can be game planned out of an offense and the perimeter. Now he's so athletic that he could just make it work, and I want to see him in with the ball more, man. I want to see him at the point of attack as opposed to the guy receiving the catch in the corner. And it's like, what are we doing in the corner? But in general, Ime Udoka has proven to coach the shit out of defense. And, they're clearly good enough to do something this year. I just think at the end of the day, this team vehemently screams like out in the second round.
The Rockets. I'm with you, man. I don't know how to feel about the Rockets to a certain extent where, I have a lot of like thumbs up to them, but I also have a lot of confused or curious looks back at them. I think one thing that stands out to me is their interior defense, and can Alperen Şengün anchor or be the main big on a championship level team? I thought we were kind of talking about it with Kat earlier where, would you want him on a championship team? And I think Şengün and Kat are very similar in a lot of ways where, defensively, teams can attack Şengün. I think you're going to see that a lot in the playoffs. Now it's going to come down to shot making for me. Will Jae'Sean Tate and Tari Eason, Tari Eason started off really hot, but then, has kind of quieted down a little bit from three. But can those guys make big shots when it matters most? Reed Shepherd. Is Reed Shepherd going to be playable in the playoff series in terms of like defensive matchups? And, can he get to a point where he's getting 25 plus minutes a game? Let me pull up what he's averaging right now, minutes per game wise. But, they need that shooting really bad. So can he provide it, in a playoff series and like actually play a good amount? Let's see. He's averaging right at 25. So I guess I picked a good benchmark in that term. So can Reed Shepherd play and be efficient and effective on both sides? And, Kevin Durant, I think he's going to do Kevin Durant things. And Thompson's going to do Thompson things, and there's things that I feel really great about, but there's also just enough questions that I'm fine with them being in tier 3 and among these lower contenders that we're talking about.
Yeah, because I mean, you've seen them go toe to toe with teams like OKC, but then you've seen them have some rougher games, and really just the fit is tough. And when it comes to a man, it feels like most teams give him the Ben Simmons treatment nowadays, where they're just like, all right, he can have the 3-point line, everyone else get in the paint. Um, so when your second or third best player is getting treated like that, it's kind of hard to maintain a dynamic offense, especially when your main ball handler is 36, 37. Um, so yeah, I agree. I think the Rockets are in a good spot down here underneath kind of the tiers we've been discussing, and I'm excited to see what they do in the playoffs. I think watching KD in the playoffs is always fun. He's starting to get to an age where I think we have to start watching all the playoff games because it might be the last where it's actually Kevin Durant. So I think we just need to appreciate it for what it is this year, and then hope that oh, Fred VanVleet, yes, towards ACL. Thank you. Yeah, so him coming back next year is obviously going to be a huge boon. I think Amen will take a step next year, but that's a year away. That's another year on Kevin Durant's ankles, very, very ashy ankles. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But for this year, they're in a good spot.